to another edition of Fanfare Online. I'm Rich Flowers, and with me is the sports editor of the Athens Review, Jason Larson. And we are smack dab in the middle of the high school football season with some interesting races shaping up and some of our local teams doing quite well. So, Jason, let's look back at last week just a bit.
Yeah, well, we had some interesting games last week, starting right off the top with Athens. Of course, they got a big win over Palestine, which was, it's not the rivalry game, but it was a big game for them, and they came out with a 49-14 win. So, obviously, that was big for a lot of reasons. Just, the mental aspect of getting to beat Palestine a second time and keeping the team on track. Frankly, they've done a good job so far this year of not letting teams surprise them. I was actually a little worried myself about the Palestine game last week. I wondered, if this team was ready for a letdown at any point, and they have proven that they're not. So, they've done a good job at this point. And of course, had Crossroads got another win last week, so they've now got 2 wins on the season. That's, one more than they had the entire previous 2 seasons, so that was a big win for them. Malakoff won again, of course, we still have some teams that are struggling still also. Maybank still looking for their first win. Eustis still looking, they've got a win, but trying to get on track here. And, of course, most of those teams that we just mentioned now have the week off this week. We have a very short schedule, so they're going to get an extra week to kind of catch their breath a little bit and try to tweak a few things and get guys in the right positions before district play starts.
So most teams with the bye week coming somewhere in the season have decided this is the time to do it right before the start of district play. Kind of assess where you are and then get the team ready to go for the games that are crucial. Yeah,
and frankly, I think for a lot of these teams it's a good time too. I always try to preface saying these kind of things by saying I've never been a coach, I'm not a coach, but this would seem like a good time to stop and take a break and assess, for a team like Eustis that's 1-4, a team like Maybank that's 0-5, and really both of those teams going into their districts. You can look at that non-district schedule and look at the record and go, oh my gosh, they're headed for a disaster. But, if you look at that 13-3A district, Maybank's got a great shot to win in that district. And that's not to say anything about the other teams, but, same thing with Eustis. Eustis has a good shot to make the playoffs out of that district despite a 1-4 start. So, if it was me, I think I would prefer to have this week right now, right before district. Not that you really go back and focus on the season in total, but, it gives you an extra week to prepare for that first opponent, and it gives you some time to focus on you too, which I think a lot of these coaches would say is they really want to just focus on what they do and do what they do right and not necessarily worry as much about the other team.
Now, a couple of weeks ago we had a crazy week because there were so many close, high-scoring games. You just don't see that very often. And frankly, last week when Athens went into their battle with Palestine, we thought it might be more of the same. But the Athens defense, even though they gave up the long kick return, they had the better of Palestine throughout the game.
Yeah, and if you look at it, I mean, you take those 7 points away and, 1 defensive touchdown against a team that's got a very good running back. Terrence Simon from Palestine, he's a good running back. I mean, probably not the best Athens has seen this year. I still think the Dieball running back was pretty good. And the Wills Point running back was pretty good too. Yeah. But, he's a real good talent. That Simon kid ran for 282 against Maybank, obviously, the previous week. So he still got his 100-yard game. But Athens has done a real good job. It seems like they either give up the rushing yards really early or really late when the game has kind of been decided in their favor. So with these backs from Dieball and Wills Point and now Palestine, they have given up some 100-yard games, but it just never has been a crushing thing for the team because the offense has kept things rolling so much. They're scoring 35, 36 points a game, of course 49 last week, that, they can afford to give a little on defense. And frankly, with the way they're scoring and as fast as they seem to score, on these big long touchdowns, it puts the defense back on the field. So you'd expect the defense to be a little more tired, they've just done a good job of, even though that's the case, not giving up a whole lot so far.
Athens has a good mix on offense because they have the big guys up front. They're not hurting in size department at all as far as the line's concerned. But it's been a long time since Athens has had this kind of people to put behind them.
Yeah, I'm big on the quarterback, Tevin Watson. I'm big on Kendall Sanders and Cameron Daugherty at running back. I'm really big on Courtney Whitehead. I think those guys are all some of the best players that Athens has had at those positions in a long time. When you look at Tevin Watson, 13 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. He'll go over the 1,000-yard passing mark this week, with just maybe about 104, something like that, yards. But what I'm told every time I talk to coaches at Athens is that offensive line is the, unit that has really made it happen. So basically, you know, it's kind of a cliche where you hear these guys say, well, I could have done without my O-line. And that's true, though. I mean, in this case, this O-line has done a really good job, and they've come a really long way, because one of the things I'm always told by coaches is, last year, you know, on the line, they weren't as physical as they wanted to be. They weren't as aggressive as they wanted to be. Now those guys are opening up huge holes that are more than sufficient for guys like Kendall Sanders and Cameron Daugherty to run through. So, you know, they're doing a good job there, and a good job overall blocking, too, because I can't tell you how many times, and you've seen it, too, doing the radio, where you've seen Courtney Whitehead throwing a block downfield for Kendall, or vice versa. Kendall Sanders throwing a block downfield for Courtney. So they're just doing a lot of things right now, and I think you can see that in a 4-1 record.
Yeah, and the defense, it became a cliche last week, because before the game we talked about Fanfare and his play at linebacker, and how if he hit somebody, it was a tackle.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah,
it was just automatic. He's not the biggest guy on the field, but when he made contact, the guy was going down.
Yeah, and here's the really impressive thing about that. Fanfare has stepped up, and I mean, I think right now he's their defensive most valuable player, no question about it. Now, and this is on a team, a football team, that has Justin Hofstetter, who was the All-County MVP last year. And Hofstetter is a great linebacker, and he's just, you know, you can tell he's still trying to feel his way back into games after, you know, missing so much time due to injury to start this season. And they really haven't missed a beat. Now, that's not to say they wanted to go the whole season without him, without Hofstetter, I should say, but they've been able to kind of hold the fort while they're waiting for their defensive leader to come back, and now they've got him back, and you're going to see probably in a couple of games, if not this week, he's going to start, you know, as long as he stays healthy, Hofstetter's going to start being the Hofstetter you saw last year. And if you've got two guys out there flying around the ball like Hofstetter and Austin Fanfare to go along with a C.J. Tatum, and really a guy that I've been super impressed with at linebacker is Michael Thompson, if you've got guys being that aggressive, it's going to be really hard for teams to do much with, you know, what's going on, you know, trying to get their offense moving.
Yeah, and this week we have Athens going on the road. They're taking their axes and everything, going and trying to cut a hole through the piney woods and find Huntington.
Yeah, I don't know where Huntington's at. I think it's in Louisiana, or maybe somewhere down in Mexico.
Yeah,
somewhere down there south. But you know, Huntington is 2-3. They've struggled a little bit. The one thing I think that you can definitely say is you don't want to just say, well, this is a gimme for Athens, because you never know what's going to happen. But as long as they play football the way they've been playing football, as long as they run the ball, you know, as long as they don't turn the ball over through the passing game, I think they're going to be okay.
So the Athens Hornets against a Huntington team that hasn't been in the playoffs in their 29-year history, but they do have a few weapons they can hit you with. And the Brownsboro Bears this week, they've had some tight ones here this season so far, but they have continued to have an explosive offense and get enough down on defense to win.
Yeah, you bet. And this week, of course, they go to Roy City to play Van Alstyne. Van Alstyne is 4-1. Brownsboro is 4-1. You know, and I think that's going to be one more tight ball game for them. I think it's going to be, you know, real tough. Van Alstyne's got a couple of guys that can throw the ball around a little bit, you know, and I think they probably alternate too. They've got a pretty solid running back. So, you know, this game, the Brownsboro defense, I think, you're going to see a lot about the Brownsboro defense in this game, because Van Alstyne's got so many weapons. So it'll be a good test for them.
Okay, is that it?
That's it.
An abbreviated slate this week, but we
don't want to forget about Trinidad Oakwood.
I didn't want to forget about them.
No, yeah, you can't forget about Trinidad Oakwood. Now, of course, they host Oakwood this week, and you know, Trinidad's doing the same thing. They've got, you know, since they've just got 14 in their district, they're playing all these non-district games. So this isn't even their last non-district game, of course, Rich, but they've got Oakwood, and you know, Oakwood's going to be pretty tough too. Used to be one of those 11-man teams that's dropped down. So you know, Trinidad's coming off the loss to the loss to Abbott last week. Abbott's a good program, so I think Trinidad is starting to figure out a little bit about what they are this season, and I think they're probably getting a little bit more comfortable. So this should be a good test. The Harris ratings has Oakwood picked pretty big, but I don't see that happening. I think it's going to be a good ball game.
Okay, Trinidad Trojans in action, and that's your slate of games this week. If your team's not playing, you might want to take in one of the other games around the area and see them play. And we'll be back next week as we get some of the teams into district play, as we talk about another round of high school football on Fanfare Online.